Okay, my phone has decided to be completely uncooperative and will not record anything at all. So I am borrowing this device so I can continue my filming. All right, so here's where we are. We have created that seat for the stone in the back. The frame is ready to now get wrapped for the bail. We'd put in these gentle curves on the side, and then when we got to the top, we just gently curved the wires on each side, the framing wires on each side, away from each other, so that we can then start binding them together. And we have this bundle of wires and this, and they're going to not only be flat against each other, but they're going to come and be flat like this together. Okay, so we're going to go to step 2 now and start creating the bail. So for this, I have a length of about 18 centimeters of the half round wire. And what we are doing is we are creating that bail right there. The entire bail is going to be wrapped with the half round wire. It just makes it nice and smooth when it's moving on the chain. All right. So we're going to bring this together. You can use a scrap wire to keep it together while you're binding, but they sit together really nicely if you've molded them well. Flat side to the wires, and give yourself about I would say an inch and a half. And then we start nice and tight. Again, these are going straight up this way. These are going straight up this way. Kind of hold them all together, and you're binding all 8 wires. So 4 from this side and 4 from the other. And you can get them nice and tight down here. Same thing. Up and over, smooth as you go. Squish it down nice and tight. At about 5 wraps, what we are going to do is take these front wires, or the twisted wires. So the 2 twisted wires that are in the front, and one of the wires that naturally wants to go right there. So we're going to take those. Since one of these twisties is a little bit on the shorter side, I'm going to skip that and just take the next long wire, and we can twist that for the design as we go. So we're going to have 3 wires coming up front like this, and then the rest of the 5 wires are in the back. I'll put a bend here, move these wires all to the back, and continue wrapping these wires like this. So we're going to be continuing to wrap the bail, keeping them as flush as possible to each other. And just like this, I'm going to zoom that in just a little bit. There you go. You can hold the flat side down nice and tight and actually rotate your pendant too. And that'll give you that nice tight curl. Of course, my wires are a bit too long, so they keep scraping the mat over there. So I'm just going to use my fingers. Just as you go, keep making sure that the flat side is to the bottom. Now, as you're coiling, one thing to keep in mind is keep the coils as close together as possible. If your coils are further away like this, what's going to happen is when you push them together, they're going to bubble up. You don't want that to happen. You want this bail to be nice and tight and finished. One second, I may have turned the flat side out the other way. I'm just going to straighten that and turn it around. Hang on, it's a little difficult to see that further away on the camera. So what I'm just doing is turning the flat side back down again, so it'll come nice and tight and flush against here. Sorry, just take me another second and I'll be back on the screen. All right, here we go. So just going to keep wrapping that around nice and tight and keep squishing it down. See how I kinked that over? Just going to use this to tighten that and move it to the back. And I'm going to just use up this length of wire. Until I have about, say, I have about an inch, and this comes down, so I'll give myself another 1.5 inches on this side as well, and then I'm going to bring this down. All right, that's on the back, so it should be okay. Move that top bail slightly to the front. Now you could use your dowel, you could use a pen, your bail making pliers. You're just going to round these down, and so you have a nice round. I could just use your fingers to mold it, whichever way you wanted. Because I'm not 100% certain what kind of chain I'm going to be putting this on, I like to give it a bit of a slightly larger bail. That way it can accommodate any kind of chain, a beaded one, a rope chain, a simple fancy chain, like, you know, or just something really, really simple. I'm going to bring this down just a wee bit more. So where you started your binding is where you end your binding over there as well. And this needs to now be looped and brought through the front of that frame. So going to snip that off. We don't need too much, so we just need enough for it to come around through the center and go back and wrap around there. So I would give it 3/4 of an inch, and then snip these wires one at a time. And try and hold on to the ends of your wire so they don't go flying all over the place. All right. So take these 5 wires through to the other side. And let's move these out of the way for now. We'll take 2 that naturally want to go on the left, take them to the left. The 2 that want to go to the right, move them to the right. And just come around here, come around here. You can take this starting wire that we had and anchor it around that center wire that we have, the 5th wire. And we're just going to anchor that a couple of times and then terminate it right there. On the top, so when you curl it, it'll go on the inside. In one of my upcoming videos, I will be showing you what you can do with the scrap wires that you have. Anything that's about 3/4 of an inch or more can be reused. These are some of the pieces I have in both the silver, bronze, and the antique copper, and I'll show you how you can reuse these pieces. I have these little bits of chains. Again, we can show you how to make a beaded chain and minimize your scrap. Turn your scrap into something usable art. All right. So we have these here. Let me just terminate that wire that we have going here by bringing it around this way and cutting it right inside there. And you can use your bent nose pliers to kind of go in there and then tuck those wires in. Okay, just 1 second. I seem to have pulled something out of whack here. All right. Sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure I'm all centered, nice and tight, like this. Looks about symmetrical. So now what we have to do is take these 2 wires and tuck them around. Take these 2 and tuck them around. We can cut off just a little bit more because you don't need that much. Be careful that it doesn't go flying all over the place. All right. And then you can either take your chain nose or your round nose pliers and just tuck them in nice and tight, just like that. Take these 2 and tuck them in either one at a time or together. Tuck them in nice and tight right there, and that goes in right there as well. You can use your bent nose pliers to come in and make sure they're really nice and tight and secure. Sometimes this can be a little bit finicky when you have the camera in between your piece and your eyes. That looks about good. Now there's a few things we can do with this center wire. Either you can just make a nice little curlicue. You can tuck it back in on the other side. You can also, and this I showed somebody in class, is you can make this into a little loop and hang a charm off of it. This is like, you could just make a little loop like that and have a charm hanging down there. For now, I think I'm just going to make it a really nice, tight little curlicue. If it wants to turn. And just leave it right there. Now these wires will come, so bend them this way. And we want 1 twisted, 1 plain, 1 twisted. Or we could put the twisted wire in the center and have plain, twisted, plain. But I like the idea of having more twisty wires and the plain one just as a separator, a connector in the middle. So we're going to do that. We're going to go there and tighten, tighten and twist this wire. So let me zoom that in a little bit. So we have 1 twist, 1 plain, square, and 1 twisted wire. Again, this needs a couple more twists, and we can undo that, pull it out. Now when we're laying them out, again the plain wires in the center, just hold that there and twist it this way, so to your left, and it's coming down from the left to the right, again making sure that your plain square wire is in the center. That unraveled, we will just tighten that up in a second, but this is coming down like this, it's going around the back, over that seat that you created, and then back to the front, just like this. Okay. And then I'm gonna fan those edges out. Just adjust where you need to. We're gonna do that tucking thing, but right at the end. So we're gonna put in 3 little loops over here. Just take 3 tiny curlicues for our design. And we're going to make them graduated. So each one will be about 1/4 of an inch longer than the previous one. Like that. And then we're going to go in with your round nose pliers and make those little curls. So right there at the tip and going, oops, just like that. So one tight curl, the second one. I'm putting them all in the same direction. You could put them one going one way, one going the other. That's completely up to you. Like, so if you wanted this one to go outwards, you could actually shorten that and have it just coming this way. Actually, let's do that. Let's snip one of them off, like right about here. So it's the same length as the other one, but it's going in the opposite direction, just like this. Okay, nice and tight. And now we'll do a little adjustments. Any of those wires that are coming out, we're gonna go in and tuck them back in. Anything too long, we're gonna cut it off. Tuck that in, tuck that. And sometimes you need to come in with a different tool just to make sure that's nice and snug. We're also going to do the back. We're going to tighten that little seat a bit, just like that. Make sure these wires are nice and flat, coming over very nicely. Anything that needs to be tucked, tightened, now is the time. Now if you feel like this frame, you see here, there's a little bit of a gap there. Probably I was holding it too loosely when I was framing it. All you need to do is push it down here, come up to the top right here, and just bend it inwards, and that'll tighten it up right away. Same thing from this side. Come in from here on this side and tuck it in like so. And there you have it. Now, I already have the frame going for the amethyst. I left that 5th wire in the center a little bit longer, so I can show you something else we can do is we can twist that wire and have a slightly longer curlicue. Now, the only reason I didn't do it in the previous one is because that's the way I did it in class, and that's just to show you if you don't want too many curls and swirls, you want to keep it kind of, you know, really simple, that's one thing you can do. The other option here is you can make that curlicue like a nice tight spiral and a larger spiral. Okay, you can come in with, I'm gonna use my chain nose here, right there, and then nice and tight. You're gonna do that spiral, nice and tight. I'm gonna zoom that in just a tiny bit. And so you have that nice and tight. Keep going until you're out of wire. This was about 1.25 inches long. So when you're done that really nice and tight, you can curl it down this way, and that kind of hides some of those wires that you had there. So you see it hides those joints really nicely. Now these wires, I want to take them the other way around, because you see how the lines on these amethysts are going this way. So if I had this wire coming this way, it would just go a little bit against the pattern that already exists. And I like to kind of follow the lines of the stone. So again, one twist, one plain, and the other one twisted. This one wants to sit in the center. So we're going to just twist them all. Let's do something different now. So all the accent wires here are going to be twisty wires. Now say you didn't want these three little curls on the top. You could just end the wires on the side. You could just end them all up here. You don't even have to have them coming down if that's not a look that appeals to you. It just keeps it kind of open pattern, and you know, it's just basically what appeals to you, what says, hello, here I am, this is what I want to be. And also, if you have a stone that you really want to show off the back, not that these backs aren't neat, but if you wanted something that you really wanted to highlight a design on the back, then you maybe don't want these coming across here. You just want it to be a little bit different. I do have to tighten up that a little bit, and I'll show you how. So now these wires, we're going to go this way. So you turn them this way, and they're coming down the opposite direction. And you want to follow the line of that. So this is the angle it's at. Leave the angle there. You could just terminate them right here and tuck them in the side. Or if you wanted to come around, then you can come around straight down the back, nice and tight. And only two of them are long enough to come to the front. One of them wants to end right there. So we're going to do this. You're going to put two there, and we're going to tuck this one onto that wire, because it's the center one, of that seat that we have created. So we'll take the round nose pliers, and we're going to tuck it in through this right here. Sorry, just one moment. Just going to lift that. Let's do this here. All right, so we're going to lift this wire up a little bit. Get that out of the way for a second. Take this, tuck it in through here, come out here and tighten that nice and tight. And then you can take this one back to the front. And then we can have one curl up, one curl down. So just take your cutters. You want just about that much. And then about the same, just pull this one nice and tight. About the same over here. Take your round nose pliers, curl this going up, nice and tight. Curl this going down. So wherever possible, try to follow the patterns in your stone. It'll just make it look that much more appealing, because against the line would kind of just draw your eyes away from the stone and not highlight that. Again, this one, just you have those little two tiny ones. They're there for a decorative purpose. Also, it makes the setting a bit secure. And just by changing that direction, you see how you have a couple of different looks there. Another thing, I just wanted to kind of make this more symmetrical, and make sure your two wires on the sides, so wire number 2 and 3, are sitting flat against a stone on the side. 1 is going twisting and going on top, and 4 is the one that you have the seat on. So you see how the seat is just a bit off? I want this to be more symmetrical. I want this to be at the same distance as the other one. So gonna just, because pendants flip over and you want both sides to look